My goal of the presentation is to provide some information about seasonal affective disorder, but hopefully the real takeaway is how to manage it. I think it's early enough in this season, even if you've already started experiencing symptoms, to have some tools in your toolbox or have a plan so that this season is hopefully more manageable. So what is seasonal affective disorder? It is a depressive episode that lasts for a season. They define season as 4 to 5 months. Symptoms begin around the same time every year, and symptoms resolve or decrease around the same time every year. There are two seasonal patterns, winter and summer. Winter is more common. These are the symptoms for seasonal affective disorder. Persistent low mood, loss of interest or pleasure in hobbies and activities, decreased energy, fatigue, or feeling slowed down, changes in sleep, appetite, or weight, either an increase or a decrease, psychomotor changes, feeling restless or agitated, or experiencing slower movements or speech, cognitive difficulties, difficulty concentrating, thinking, making decisions, memory issues, feelings of guilt, worthlessness, or helplessness, and thoughts of death or suicide attempts. These are also the symptoms for major depressive disorder. Seasonal affective disorder is a subcategory of depression. And so if you have these symptoms, but you don't feel like you fit the seasonal pattern, you're probably looking at a possible depression diagnosis. Some slight differences in winter pattern versus summer pattern. In the winter, you might be sleeping more. In the summer, you might have difficulty sleeping. In the winter, you might notice that you're eating more, you're craving high carb foods. In the summer, there's a loss of appetite. Subsequently, in the winter, you might gain weight, or the summer, you might lose weight. In the winter, you might be more tired or have less energy. In the summer, you might feel more agitated or anxious. In the winter, you might have social withdrawal. In the summer, you might have increased irritability. Symptoms can be very individual. You don't have to have every symptom to have seasonal affective disorder, and your symptoms could look very different than your neighbor's symptoms. So how does one get a diagnosis? That is a picture of the DSM-5. That is a diagnostic manual that healthcare practitioners use to assess to see if individuals fit criteria for all mental health disorders. Seasonal affective disorder is a subtype of major depressive disorder or bipolar disorder with a seasonal pattern specifier. So you would have to meet the criteria for either major depressive disorder or bipolar disorder and the seasonal affective disorder. So quickly, for major depression, you would have to have at least 5 of the symptoms I just listed on that list, 5 of those symptoms in the last 2 weeks. The symptoms cause significant distress or impairment in your functioning, and the symptoms are not due to a substance or a medical condition. For bipolar disorder, that's a little bit more complicated because there's 2 types of bipolar disorder. There's hypomanic and hypermanic, but essentially alternating periods of significantly elevated or depressed mood. So you would have to meet those criteria, and then the criteria for seasonal affective disorder would be the pattern of occurrence. It's the seasonal pattern. You have complete remission or significant reduction of symptoms at a specific time of the year. You would have had to have at least 2 consecutive years where you've had an episode. So if you feel like you have the symptoms this year, you feel like you meet the criteria, you would have also had to have had an episode last year. And then the seasonal episodes are more common than your non-seasonal ones. If you're finding that you have symptoms kind of throughout the whole year, or the symptoms throughout the year are more frequent than the seasonal ones, then you probably are looking at a diagnosis of depression or bipolar disorder. Do you need to be diagnosed? Not necessarily. The only things that you would need a diagnosis for would be medication or therapy. And if you were going to a specific provider for either one of those, they would be evaluating you for the diagnosis anyway. So it would be part of that package of either medication or therapy. These are some tidbits, some research findings about seasonal affective disorder. I don't think I mentioned seasonal affective disorder has the poetic acronym of SAD, so that's why you see SAD in this slide. It's estimated that millions of Americans experience seasonal affective disorder. Many people go undiagnosed. That is because some of the symptoms may be confused for other either physical illnesses like hypothyroidism or other depressive disorders. Sometimes it is mistakenly attributed to holiday blues. Holiday blues are mild, temporary dips in mood, and I'll touch a little bit more on that later. And it's often underreported. Many people who experience symptoms are not reporting it for various reasons. Episodes of seasonal affective disorder usually begin in young adulthood. It occurs more often in women. How fun. Women experience more hormonal shifts, which can affect serotonin and melatonin levels, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then there's other research as to why women are more predisposed to depression because of social factors. Winter pattern SAD occurs more often than summer pattern. SAD is more common in people living farther north where there are shorter daylight hours in winter, like us. For winter pattern, the most difficult months tend to be January and February. And as I previously mentioned, winter pattern is not the same as the holiday blues. And then if you have another mental health diagnosis, you are more likely to have seasonal affective disorder. And so unfortunately, the specific cause of seasonal affective disorder remains unknown. There's no one specific reason why everybody gets it, but there are some factors that the research show that do play a role in why people get seasonal affective disorder. And I'm going to touch on some of those. The first one is serotonin. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter. That is a neurotransmitter carries messages between your nerve cells in your brain and throughout the rest of your body. Serotonin is responsible for learning, memory, and happiness. It controls our mood, and it's often referred to as the feel-good chemical in our brain. Studies show that individuals with seasonal affective disorder have reduced levels of serotonin. Some things that help regulate serotonin: diet, some medications regulate it, some stress management like meditation, deep breathing. But the two biggest factors that help regulate serotonin is exercise and sunlight. And so with shorter daylight hours in the winter, people see a decrease in serotonin levels, which negatively affects mood and behavior. Another factor is vitamin D. Vitamin D is a nutrient in the body the body needs to keep bones healthy, support immune health, and keep muscles and brain cells working. We get it from foods, supplements, and sun exposure. Research shows that vitamin D plays a role in the production and regulation of serotonin. So less sunlight exposure can cause vitamin D deficiency, which can reduce serotonin activity, which again can negatively affect mood and behavior. And then there's melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone in our body that plays a role in our sleep. It helps regulate our sleep-wake cycle and our circadian rhythm. Our circadian rhythm is the body's natural 24-hour cycle that regulates physical, mental, and behavioral changes. It's influenced by light and dark. It basically tells us when to be awake, when to be asleep. It controls our body temperature, our hormone release, our digestion, etc. Melatonin production increases in darkness, and it decreases when it's exposed to light. So lack of sunlight The increase in darkness can cause an overproduction of melatonin, which contributes to feeling sleepy or sluggish in the winter. And so changes in serotonin, changes in melatonin can disrupt our normal daily rhythms, and it can contribute to mood and sleep and behavioral changes in a negative way. So the three of those probably make a lot of sense for winter pattern seasonal affective disorder, but what about people who get it in the summer? And so there's actually less research on summer pattern because it's less commonly experienced, but this is what the research has shown so far. Heat and humidity can cause feelings of fatigue and exhaustion, which can negatively affect how we feel. A lot of people experience routine changes in the summer because it's lighter later, people are going to bed later. Some people have changes in work and home life because maybe kids are out of school, or if you're a teacher, you're not working, or some people have jobs where it gets busier in the winter because everybody's on vacation. There's a lot of change in the summer. Overexposure to sunlight can disrupt a body's natural sleep-wake cycle and hormonal balance. And then there's some societal, social things that can affect it. Uh, Pressure to engage in more activities because it's daylight longer, fear of missing out, pressure to feel happier because it's the summer, body image issues, financial stress, and a lot of people take vacations in the summer, and vacations can tend to be a big source of stress and anxiety for people. So now we're going to get into some of the treatment options. There's a couple options. This is the only option that is specific to seasonal affective disorder. The rest of the options can be applicable to most other mental health conditions. Light therapy, it's like the picture, literally a light that you put in front of you. It's a light to mimic outdoor light. It is recommended that people use it for 30 to 45 minutes daily at 10,000 lux. Lux is a measure of brightness that is comparable to a full overcast day. Studies show that light therapy can improve symptoms of seasonal affective disorder. Some research suggests that it's the best treatment for it. Some research shows that it works well with therapy. Some other research shows that it boosts the effectiveness of antidepressants. A couple of things about it. It is not regulated. It is not FDA approved. You do not need a prescription for it. You could get it a light on Amazon. I've seen lights from $40 to over $200. But a couple of things to make sure of before you purchase one. Make sure the light is specific for seasonal affective disorder. There are a couple of lights on the market, some for skin disorders, some for migraines. So you want to make sure it is specific to seasonal affective disorder. You want to make sure it's the appropriate measure of brightness. You want to make sure there's no UV light. And it is recommended, I know they say this for everything, but it is recommended that you talk with a physician before beginning because the light is contraindicated for some people. The light can induce manic symptoms for some people with bipolar disorder. It can be problematic for people with glaucoma or other eye issues. And it can be problematic for people who take certain medications where there's a sensitivity to light. Another option is therapy. In therapy, you can learn or reinforce healthy ways to cope with seasonal affective disorder. You can learn how to manage stress. Therapy can help with what is called behavioral activation, which is helping to engage in behaviors that break the cycle of inactivity. Activities like improving sleep, engaging in pleasurable activities, exercise, etc. When we get depressed, when we get anxious, we tend to also think more negatively, and that can affect how we feel and how we behave. And so cognitive behavioral therapy can help identify and challenge the negative thinking patterns. Some caveats for therapy: that it can be very difficult to find a provider that has immediate availability. and essentially cost. A lot of therapists take insurances, some don't, so that can be a barrier for some people. Another option is medication. You can get an antidepressant. Antidepressants are used to change the way your brain uses certain chemicals to better regulate mood and behavior. You do need a prescription for medication. You can get a prescription from a psychiatrist or from most primary care physicians. Psychiatrists usually are more versed in the different types of medications on the market. Um, some things with medication. Some medications take 4 to 8 weeks to really start working in your body and for you to feel an effect. Um, Also, sometimes it's a little bit of an experiment to figure out what medication works well for you. One medication might work one way for one person and then completely different for another. So it's an experimental process. Depending on the medication, depending on the individual, some people might be prescribed a medication for the months that they have symptoms. Some people get prescribed a medication year round, even though you have the symptoms for 4 to 5 months. There has been talk about taking vitamin D supplements to improve vitamin D deficiency in the winter to help seasonal affective disorder, but the research is mixed about whether that's actually effective or not. And then treatment options that you can do on your own. You can start now, you can do these in conjunction with all of the other ones that I have suggested. These are all activities that I think are really important in everyday life, and I kind of encourage all of my patients to do some of these things to help improve their moods. I think the most important one for seasonal affective disorder is to keep or to create a routine if you don't have one. I think when it gets dark out, when it's cold out, our natural inclination is to feel like it's bedtime and to like put our pajamas on, sit on the couch, get in bed, and kind of do nothing. And inactivity actually is closely connected to depression. And so it's important to keep doing the things that you're doing and maintain a routine and a schedule so that you don't create that depressive cycle. When we are inactive, it creates the cycle of depression. When we're inactive, for whatever reason, it makes us feel bad, and then we're inclined to do less, and then that cycle of feeling bad continues and continues. So keeping your routine. Another important tool is exercise. There's so much research out there about how effective exercise is in improving our mood. There's even some recent research that suggests that exercise is actually more effective than antidepressants in treating depression. Exercise also does a lot of other things. It improves energy, it improves sleep, it helps your immune system, your brain functioning, it reduces your risk of disease, and so many more. Um, the research shows that 15 minutes of exercise at a time produces the feel good chemicals in our brain. So it doesn't have to be anything huge. If you do something for 15 to 20 minutes, you're getting what you need, the good chemicals in your brain. Going outside as much as possible. I know it's really hard in the winter with limited daylight to see the sun some days. So getting outside as much as possible. Being in nature is also very helpful for your mental health. Continue to do activities that you love. When we don't feel good, we tend to do less, and that makes us feel worse. So continuing to do the things that bring you joy, bring you levity, humor, even if it doesn't feel like it's going to in the moment. Have things planned out, schedule things throughout the next couple of months if you have winter pattern seasonal affective disorder, so you're already inclined to maybe do it if it's already scheduled. Positive social interactions. When we don't feel good, we tend to isolate, and isolation is not helpful for depression. So spend time with people that make you feel good. Emphasis on people that make you feel good. If you fight with your sister every time you see her, she's not somebody I'm talking about when I say it's people that make you feel good. Be realistic about goals, about expectations, especially if you don't feel well. Don't expect change overnight, accept that day to day might look different temporarily. Having unrealistic goals or expectations only creates disappointment, and that will just make you feel worse. Meditation, journaling, finding gratitude, those are all examples of mindfulness activities. Mindfulness is being present in the moment without judgment. Mindfulness can reduce stress and anxiety and depression. It can improve mood regulation. There's a lot of benefits to mindfulness. Doing things for others, research shows that we feel good when we do something nice for another person. So it can be as simple as smiling at a stranger or giving somebody a compliment to volunteering at the soup kitchen. There's a spectrum where you can do all kinds of things on different levels. Laughter reduces stress hormones, it releases the feel-good chemicals in our brain, it boosts our immune system and our cognitive function, and it relieves pain. So doing what you can to get some laughs in, watch a funny show, watch a short clip of your favorite comedian on YouTube, learn some corny jokes and tell them to your friends or neighbors or coworkers. Be mindful of the basics, eating, sleeping, drinking water. I don't think most of us realize that those basic things can negatively impact our mood if we're not getting enough of it. And then conversely, if we don't feel good, we often neglect those things. So just being mindful of making sure we're eating foods that nourish our body, getting enough hydration, and trying our best to sleep as much as we need. Limit alcohol and drugs. Alcohol and drugs or any substances can sometimes exacerbate depression and anxiety for people. So that can cause people to feel worse. There can be other issues related if you're using alcohol or a substance to numb your feelings or to cope with depression or anxiety. It can create a dependence. It can create heavier use, and so it can often be problematic for any kind of mental health condition. And then the holiday blues. So seasonal depression gets mistakenly characterized as holiday blues, but the holiday blues are temporary feelings of anxiety or depression during the holidays that can be associated with stress, expectations, or memories. There are similar symptoms to seasonal affective disorder, but again, the big difference is that it is more temporary than seasonal affective disorder. Several things can trigger holiday blues. Family, either spending too much time with family or not being able to see your family, too many commitments, financial worries, unrealistic expectations, changes in habits. Sometimes we eat more, we drink more, we're out doing more, staying up later. And then there's the seasonal triggers. So I wanted to bring up holiday blues because for people with winter patterns, seasonal depression, the holidays for a lot of people fall right in the middle. And so holiday blues can compound winter pattern seasonal depression. So in conjunction with some of the other tips, it's just to be mindful around the holiday season, set some realistic expectations, set realistic budgets, don't overcommit with your social calendar, don't overcommit to your credit card, like maintain your routine as much as possible, maintain or even increase self-care when you know it's going to be more stressful, more difficult during that time period. And then some quick resources. If you're having any thoughts of suicide, there's a crisis hotline 988, or you can call 911 or your local crisis center. If you think you may be depressed, you can see a healthcare provider as soon as possible. If you're interested in therapy or medication, you can contact your primary care physician, or you can call the number on the back of your insurance card to see if you can find a list of in-network providers. Henry J. Austin Clinic and Catholic Charities are two local organizations that provide services to individuals without health insurance. And that's all I got. Anybody have any questions, any comments?
Someone said, I never heard of this disorder before. So that was one comment.
Okay.
Online sales can advertise inappropriately. What are specific points, I think to see at there's some typos, the light might help SAD. What are specific points to see that light might help SAD? I don't know if that means what to
Yeah,
look at in the machine or how it can help.
yeah, I think that is a good point. Like there are a lot of wellness scams out there. So I just would make sure that you're looking for a light for seasonal affective disorder. You're aiming for a light, I think it's 10,000 lux. You want to limit UV light. And I think those are the main things to make sure you're looking for. You're making sure you're getting what is recommended by research.
It looks like that person said, is there a specific brand that you would recommend for the lights?
I'm not well versed on all of the brands, so I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending one.
All right, let's see. Can you repeat the benefits of laughing?
Yes, laughing can reduce stress hormones. It releases the feel good chemicals in your brain, the serotonin, the dopamine. It can boost your immune system and your cognitive function. It relieves pain. There's actually a such thing as laugh therapy. It's a little bit, if you think about it, it's a little bit awkward, but like where you just go and you laugh and you get all those benefits.
Have you found any vitamins in addition to D, herbs or supplements that may be helpful for this diagnosis?
I'm not familiar. You can ask your primary care physician to see if they know of anything. I don't remember if anything came up when I was doing some research. I'm not sure. That's my answer. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Let's see. What if I move to a warmer climate during winter? Would that help?
It can, yeah, because I think the research shows that sunlight can be a factor for a lot of people. It doesn't guarantee, and I think that's why they don't have a specific cause because there are several variables that are at play for seasonal affective disorder. So it can help for some people. I can't guarantee that it will help for everyone.
There was a thank you. How much vitamin D is recommended?
That I'm not sure. Sorry.
I guess you could check with your primary care
Yeah.
physician. Someone said St. John's wort is one that I know of. I have heard of that. I am low in vitamin D. You must get blood work with your doctor and may need an RX for it. Let's see. So yeah, you could check with your doctor. From Chat GPT on lights, I think somebody put, let's go back to that. But with all supplements like St. John's wort, you would want to run it by your practitioner.
Yes.
Here's a quick glance. I think I actually might have this one. There's somebody did a Chat GPT and put a whole list in the chat box of different ones, of Virilex, Carex. There's different ones that are listed. So people, I guess, could take a screenshot of that maybe and do a little research into some of those that are up there. And that I think is the last one I see. Let me just see if I missed anything. Is it vitamin D3? I guess it's vitamin D. Is that correct? D3? It's D3.
I'm not sure about the number. I don't know if there's I'm not well versed with all of the medical stuff, so I would ask your primary care physician about that specifically.
Okay, I take vitamin D based on my MD lab results. I have been able to reduce the amount over time.
Okay.
This has been very helpful.
Oh, great.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
The RX is D2. Okay, interesting. I think I have D3. Yes, vitamin D3. So maybe there's different kinds. Yeah, so I guess it's good to ask your
Yeah.
provider. Someone just sent a heart.
Fun.
Yes, vitamin D comes in different strengths, can get it over the counter. I would recommend searching vitamin D3. What if I ate more protein?
Yeah, I think from what I saw, diet does play a role, but it's not as strong as other things like sunlight or exercise. So it can be helpful. I don't know if I would put all of my eggs in one basket.
I think just a general good diet,
Yeah.
greens and protein and salmon and nuts and all of those good things. So actually, we have a class next Wednesday on healthy eating the plant-based way. So there's a little plug for that
Okay.
next Wednesday with a nutritionist and a woman from America's Grower that's going to do a cooking demo. So you could look in a diet a little bit more. And then, what about a gluten-free diet?
I don't, so there are foods, I guess I'm assuming that we're asking because I mentioned that diet does affect serotonin. I would look up what foods help with the production of serotonin specifically.
Can you have both the winter and summer sides?
I I think that is less common. I think at that point you might be looking at like a depressive disorder because that's your most months out of the year.
Okay. What day is the plant-based? It's November 12th. And you can go on our website, and our website is capitalhealth.org/events. So that's how you can sign up for that. Um, we'd love to see you there. Does this affect sleep?
This I'm this as in depression. Depression can affect your sleep. It can cause you to sleep very little. It can cause you to sleep a lot. It can, if that's what you're asking, yes, it can affect your sleep.
I haven't heard of summer sadness before, but for me, I've been finding in our hot summers where it's too hot to do things outside that I have a blah, like a cabin fever. So good to figure out activities they can do indoors when it's cool.
Yeah, that could be maybe more of a summer pattern seasonal affective disorder. So yeah, the same tips can apply. I know this presentation was kind of, it sounded more directed towards the winter pattern, but all of these tools and treatment options can apply to you in the summer too.
Can this affect postpartum?
Yeah, it can. I think it can be interrelated in that postpartum could affect seasonal affective disorder and vice versa because I think hormones are fluctuating at that point and you could be susceptible at that point.
Somebody just put in, what about kids? Not sure what that means, but
Yeah, I don't I the
oh, I
most
guess
of
if kids could get
yeah, I
sorry.
think kids can be susceptible. This most of this research was based on adults, so I would check with a pediatrician. But kids are susceptible to anxiety and depression, so they're just as susceptible to seasonal changes.
Okay. And then we get another thank you for all the helpful information.
Thank you.
So I think that's it. Jenna, again, thank you. As someone else said, thank you. Have a great evening. Thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. We appreciate you coming out, and I'm sure you learned some helpful tips. It's appropriate this time of year with it just starting to get the shorter days. So I know it's helpful to a lot of us.